one of the modern classic films is Dead Man Walking, and in that moving film, based on reality, it actually happened some years ago in the case of somebody on death row in the States. The nun, Sister Helen Bouget, was trying to prepare his soul as best she could, for he was a lapsed Catholic. And in one scene close to the execution, she gives him a Bible to look at in his spare time and hints that a good chapter to read would be the 8th chapter of St. John, what we've just heard now. With that verse, the truth will make you free. And it would actually make it possible to become a son of God. And the truth that she was trying to get him to face was his own truth, and also the admission of what he may have done. And eventually he did admit that one of the things of which he was accused he had done, but not the other. That is a dramatic case of not admitting the truth, but we may also be in the same state of denial, even to ourselves. We are generous in our condemnation of others, but generous also in our excusing our own faults, which may be the very same. We don't live our truth. One day, years ago, we had a conversation when I was being formed in the Carthusian monastery in France. One of the brethren maintained that the fundamental attitude of the monastic life was that of compunction. Another, who was my angel, as we called him, they're the ones who start off with information, well, he maintained that it was thankfulness, gratitude. That would be going back to the Desert Fathers, when compunction was very much a central theme, maintained to this day in bodily gestures, humility of expression and attitude, physical and mental, and in the repetition of the prayer for mercy for a sinner, the Jesus prayer. But the other is there too, and always has been, praise of God. We find it in the liturgy, we find it in Daniel. He was a figure of praise. He praised God even when he was in the dungeon waiting to be eaten by these lions. But he was, by angelic power, preserved. We find it again when he, with his companions, were in the fiery furnace. And we still use to this day the praise that they sang to their Creator, even in the midst of that fire, when an extra person was seen to be walking with him, similar to a Son of Man. It's on the Sunday Lords once a month that we have their canticle coming. We also have the Canticle of Creatures, which is sung twice a month, and therefore we have two passages regularly coming from Daniel and their praise mode into our liturgy to this day. Liturgy is the attitude of thanksgiving of the whole of creation, in which man chants the praise of the unconscious, that is, those creatures often chanting at the same time outside, the birds. Consciously we do what they are doing by nature, for there is an echo and a symphony of the angelic praise on earth amidst all the creatures, but man represents them all. And sublimely in the monastic life we represent both. It is a life of praise. And I recall being given a book by a nun in our parish years ago in Cardiff, which was entitled A Life of Praise. And it was a good book, full of pictures, a text by Thomas Merton of the life of Gethsemane Abbey, and it was quite moving and encouraging, for one saw the beauty of just the vertical manifested in many aspects of the horizontal. Praise. That is something that we can take on board. Man is in illusion. Man thinks that he is something. It is reported that in one of the churches in the monastic desert in the early times, one of the brethren had a beautiful voice, and he was chanting for all he was worth and admiring his voice before all the brethren. But it was shown to one of the brethren that at the back of the monastic church there was something going on. This good, humble monk in the church saw that while the monk in his choir was singing for all his worth, a demon at the back of the church was beating time and smiling. And that can be also our case. We can be owning our gifts, and the gift then becomes our enemy. The Lord in the Gospel today talks about slavery, and he indicates that one can be slaves to sin. That can also be our case in many aspects of life, and in particular that of owning what we think are our own gifts, and thereby becoming participant in the fall of Satan, who was the most brilliant of angels and then started to own his gift and turned into pride and rebellion. One nowadays would be that of intellectual gifts, which leads to a self-sufficiency, an unwillingness to learn from others, pride, which is precisely the original sin of Satan, but also of the visible gifts that one might have. Good looks. One thinks of the ruin that can indirectly lead to in beautiful girls. Also very well-groomed boys who might be athletic. The pride could enter into the sports field as well as the exam room. One thinks of those who are very good looking and proud of it. Mr. Perfect. How great I am. And that can be our praise mode, where the praise is actually deflected to ourselves. Good readers, good singers, but the demon might also be there at the back of the church, beating time and grinning. And one thinks of the amount of energy and money and time given by the female sex to making themselves that much more attractive. Attractive means how great I am, once again. My exterior is beaming. Who could not see me? And I'll make it even more so by provoking people by the way I dress. But inside, you notice there's a lot of emptiness. Whereas the ugly girl actually might be more good company, because she's not so full of herself and is not so sought after, and therefore might be more grateful. Beauty is not in the realm of the body, it's what the Lord sees, and oftentimes it is in inverse proportion. We need the eyes of God. Questa lettura del Vangelo ci parla della schiavitù. Tante anime sono schiave dei doni che hanno, però non riconoscono che hanno ricevuti. Bellezza fisica, intelligenza suprema, e da questo dono diventa piuttosto un'occasione di peccato. Invece il Signore parla della libertà che viene dalla verità. La nostra verità va riconosciuta. Nella Chiesa ortodossa, nel monachesimo ortodosso, è un atteggiamento perpetuo. Gesù Cristo, Figlio di Dio, abbi misericordia di me, peccatore. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. Questo leitmotiv, la realtà, la verità, ci rende davvero belli. L'autosufficienza, l'orgoglio demoniaco ci rende piuttosto brutti.
Se tu mi accogli, Padre buono, prima che venga sera,